Drunk, Ranvir had no control over himself. He wanted to make Mahi his own at any cost. He was forcefully kissing and biting Mahi, which cut off her lips. And now she was biting him hard and crying. But Ranvir didn't even realize how much Mahi was suffering from his behavior. He was slowly getting lost in Mahi. Mahi was repeatedly requesting Ranvir to let her go. Mahi cried and said, "Ranvir, please don't do this." She couldn't breathe because of her tears. She was suffocating. Mahi said, "Ranvir, please let her go." She was barely able to speak. Mahi couldn't tolerate Ranvir's wild behavior. She started panicking. Her entire body was covered in sweat. After a while, Ranvir realized that Mahi wasn't reacting. He looked at Mahi's face, which had turned completely red from crying. Seeing Mahi unconscious, Ranvir's intoxication disappeared. For the first time, he was feeling nervous. He tried to lift Mahi up by patting her cheeks. He said, "Hey, wake up. Please open your eyes. Mahi, I won't do anything. Please wake up." "Oh, shit. Why couldn't I control myself?" Saying this, he quickly picked up a glass of water and splashed it on Mahi's face. Mahi slowly opened her eyes. But when she saw Ranvir in front of her, her eyes were filled with fear again. She quickly got up and sat down. Mahi looked at Ranvir with frightened eyes and said, "No, don't come near me. Please stay away from me. I want to go to Baba. I don't want to stay here." Saying this, she covered herself well with a blanket. Seeing so much fear in Mahi's eyes, Ranvir realized what he had just done to her. As soon as he put his hand forward to touch Mahi's cheeks, Mahi closed her eyes tightly. Seeing Mahi so scared, Ranvir's hands tightened. And he got up from the bed and went to the washroom. When Mahi didn't feel anything, she slowly opened her eyes and looked around. She didn't see Ranvir anywhere in the room. She quickly picked up the chair lying on the floor and put it on. She came back to the bed and covered herself with the blanket. There was still fear on her face. Tears were flowing from her eyes and she was wetting the pillow. While crying, she said, "Baba, I miss you a lot. I want to come to you. I don't want to stay here." Mahi was always loved by her father. She was also loved by Mahesh's family. Until today, no one in her family had scolded her in a loud voice. So Ranvir's anger used to scare her sometimes. But today, she was scared of Ranvir's behavior. While crying, her eyes lit up. Meanwhile, in the washroom, Ranvir was standing under the shower and calming himself. Ranvir closed his eyes for a few moments and then opened them. At this time, a strange depth was visible in his eyes. He had his hands on the wall in front of him. Ranvir said to himself, "How can I do this to him? Why couldn't I control my anger? Why?" With this, he hit a powerful punch on the wall, which injured his hands. And blood started flowing from his hands and started dripping on the floor. But there was no sign of pain on Ranvir's face. After about half an hour, Ranvir came out of the washroom. He had changed his clothes. He looked at Mahesh, who was already asleep. He came close to him and started looking at his face. The marks of Ranvir's fingers were imprinted on Mahesh's delicate cheeks. This was because he held his cheeks tightly. The blood that came out of his lips was now dry. There was still a feeling of fear on Mahesh's face. Seeing Mahesh like this, Ranvir felt a pain in his chest. He wanted to hug Mahesh. But in front of him, he could see Mahesh's frightened face. He went to the balcony from there. He went to the sofa and lay down. Thinking like this, he also fell asleep. The morning sun fell on his eyes and Ranvir woke up. He looked around once. When he woke up, he realized that he had slept in the balcony last night. When he came to the room, he did not see Mahesh anywhere. He took a deep breath and went to the washroom. Everyone was sitting at the dining table for breakfast. Ranvir also got ready and came down. His eyes were still looking for Mahesh. But he did not see him anywhere. Samira came and sat next to Ranvir and said, "Good morning, Ranvir. I waited for you for so long yesterday, but you did not come." Ranvir did not pay attention to what he said. So he did not answer him. When Samira saw that Ranvir did not pay attention to what he said, she called him again. "Ranvir, where is your attention? I am asking you something." Ranvir listened to her and said, "Yes, tell me. What were you saying?" Samira said, "You were supposed to meet me yesterday. Forget that. Shall we go out today? We have not gone out since I have come from abroad." Ranvir said while having breakfast, "I have some important work today. You go with someone else." Hearing Ranvir's answer, Samira's face went down. At that time, Mahi was coming out of the kitchen holding a bowl in her hand. Seeing Mahi, Ranvir's hands stopped while having breakfast. Mahi was wearing a full neck and full sleeves anarkali suit at that time, due to which Ranvir's bite marks were hidden. Mahi had tied her hair loosely, due to which some hair was coming on her face. She did not look at Ranvir even once. She kept the bowl on the table and sat on the chair in front of Ranvir. Mahi was having her breakfast with her head down. Ranvir was also looking at Mahi while eating. Seeing Ranvir looking at Mahi like this, Samira's fists tightened with anger. She got up from there in anger and left. Anita saw Mahi's sad face. She asked lovingly, "Mahi, what happened? Why is your face so sad?" Mahi looked at Anita and said lovingly, "Mother, I want to go to Baba." Saying this, her eyes became teary. Then Anita saw Mahi like this. She got up and came to her. She waved her hand on her head and said, "Son, what happened? Why are you crying? If there is something, tell me." Everyone had already had their breakfast. Only Ranvir, Anita and Mahi were sitting in the hall. Mahi could not stop her tears because of her love. She held her and started crying like a child. She said while crying, "Mother, I want to go to Baba. I don't want to stay here. I will stay with Baba." Hearing Mahi going away, Ranvir started getting angry again. He said harshly, "You will not go anywhere." Seeing Ranvir's behavior, Anita understood that Ranvir has done something because of which Mahi is talking about going away. She scolded Ranvir and said, "Ranvir, how are you talking to your wife?" When Mahi's eyes met Ranvir's eyes, she turned her eyes to the other side. This angered Ranvir even more. He looked at Mahi and said, "You want to meet your Baba, right? Then come, I will bring you. But you will have to come back with me." Mahi said to Anita, "I don't want to go anywhere with them. I will go myself." Anita put her hand on her head and said, "Okay, I will take you myself. You go and stay with your Baba for a few days. Now stop crying and go to your room and do your packing." Hearing this, Mahi shook her head and looked at Ranvir and went to her room. Anita looked at Ranvir angrily and went to her room. As soon as Anita left, Ranvir also took his steps towards the stairs. As soon as he reached his room, the door was closed from inside. He turned the knob of the door and said, "Open the door, Mahi." When Mahi heard Ranvir's voice, she started taking her steps back. She tightened her dupatta and held it in her hands and said, "No, I will not open the door. What if he again? No, no." When Mahi did not open the door for a long time, Ranvir asked the servant for the second key to the room and opened the door and went inside. As soon as Ranvir came inside, Mahi's eyes widened with fear and she slowly started going back while looking at him with frightened eyes. Ranvir first locked the door and then started going near Mahi while staring at her angrily. Mahi was looking into Ranvir's eyes with frightened eyes. Seeing Ranvir in such anger, Mahi started remembering what happened last night. Mahi said in her trembling voice, "Don't come near me. Stay away from me." Mahi did not have a place to go back now and Ranvir had also come very close to her. Mahi pushed him and said, "Stay away from me. Stay away from me. I don't want to stay with you. I want to go home. I want to go to my Baba. Mahi was being stubborn like a crying child. Seeing Mahi crying like this and being afraid of herself, Ranvir's heart melted. Now that his face was stiff with anger, he had a soft expression on it. He hugged Mahi from his chest and said, "Please calm down. I know that tomorrow I shouldn't have behaved like this with you. Sorry." Mahi, who was hugged by Ranvir, cried and said, "You are very bad. You always get angry at me. Do you know how scared I was yesterday? And you even bit me. I am still in pain. You are very bad. I will not stay with you." Saying this, Mahi started sobbing. Ranvir hugged her like this and listened to all her complaints. He picked Mahi up and put her on the bed. As soon as he started taking off her kurta, Mahi held her kurta and said, "You will do the same with me again, won't you?" Ranvir smiled and said, "No, I am just going to apply medicine on your wound." Mahi removed her hand and said, "No, I will apply it myself." Ranvir stared at her and Mahi bowed her head. Ranvir took off her kurta. There were bite marks all over Mahi's soft body which had turned blue. Mahi also had wounds on her hand which were formed due to the broken bangles. Seeing this, Ranvir started regretting his actions. He said, "How can I do this with Mahi? Why couldn't I control myself?" As soon as he touched that mark, Mahi got up in pain. "Ow! It hurts." As soon as he said this, tears started flowing from his eyes. Ranvir took out an ointment from the side table and applied it on his wound. Then he put the kurta back on. As soon as he got up and left, Mahi held his hand and said, "May I go to Baba? I haven't met him for a long time. I am missing him." Saying this, Mahi stared at him. Will Ranvir let Mahi go to his Baba? Will Ranvir be able to change himself after seeing Mahi's condition? Will Mahi tell her Baba about the torture she is going through? To know more, keep listening to Oh Baby only on Love Pulse Diaries.